now, let's welcome your host of Aim to Purpose Spiritual Empowerment Hour, Louise Hicks. In this episode, Renewing of the Black Mind, Self-Awakening, Part 2.
Hello, world. This is Louise Hicks, your host of Aim to Purpose Spiritual Empowerment Hour, and I'm coming to you live. Thank you all for joining. And this is a continuation show because last week we started reviewing the book or reading it, the Willie Lynch letter and the making of a slave. With our topic last week, we were discussing the renewing of the Black mind, self-awakening. Again, renewing of the Black mind, self-awakening. That's what we were discussing. And so we're going to continue with this discussion because we really know that in our Black community, we have some work to do. And this is what inspired me to do this show because of the divide. And as I mentioned last week, this divide is not by coincidence. It is by design. So we have to fix it. And it's really up to us to fix it ourselves because we know for over 400 years, this issue is still prevalent within our Black community. So we are going to work on fixing it and coming together as a people. So the reason I decided to do this particular topic is because when we do have all these issues and we see that they haven't been resolved in all these years, we need to find the root cause and we need to come to the why. And I know it's Super Bowl Sunday, so I'm sure a lot of people are going out here looking at the Super Bowl, getting ready to look at it rather because it's not on yet. So they're getting ready. However, the show will be uploaded to my YouTube channel, Aim to Purpose Radio. So go to my channel and subscribe, hit the thumbs up button, and you'll get a chance to not only see this show, but previous show. And as I mentioned, we launched this show January 30th because I had been a previous host with my son, Kenan Mason, on our Aim to Purpose Radio show, in which is a continuing show. However, this is a spinoff and a new show. This is the book that we were reading, the Willie Lynch letter, the making of a slave, because some people say this is fictitious and this is not a real character. However, we do know that Willie Lynches still exist. We went from slavery to the Jim Crow era to the incarceration era, and we're still really basically in all of those eras because in many ways we are still enslaved. And it has to do with the mind, the mindset. We may not have the visible chains and so forth, but if our mind is not in the right place due to the disadvantages that we've gone through over the years, that can create an issue. And that's what has happened in our Black community. So we are here in this show with all of my guests that will be coming on in the future. I will have some guests that I talked about on the first show, and it will continue with sometimes just me speaking and addressing issues with you to help us to become more intellectually inspired, more spiritually inspired, more emotionally inspired, more economically inspired, because we need to make sure that we understand that self-love is one of the most important gifts that we can achieve within ourselves. And I always have this saying, your power lies within you, let it loose, because we have to create our own destiny. And if you aren't loving yourself, how can you love someone else? So we're going to pick up in the book where we left off last time. And I'm going to share this picture with you because when I flip the next page, this is where I'm going to start. And this picture really depicts a lot of the root cause of the why. Because when you see this picture, it brings back a lot of memories of the torturing of our ancestors and the whippings that they received that should never have happened to anybody, let alone a human being. And this is what our ancestors suffered. And with that being said, it's time for us to really, truly honor our ancestors for all of the atrocities that they went through and the many atrocities that we are still seeing today. And I had mentioned this before, it brings back some of the killings like the George Floyd, the Aubrey Mabry, the Amir Locks that recently happened out in Minnesota. And when we think about those, let's think about ourselves too, when we kill up each other, because it's so vital that we as a Black people stop the killing of one another. Black on Black crime, where children are hurt as well. So that is why I took the time to read this book and just go through some analytical thoughts with you contributing that are online with us. So let's start on page 12, where it says Cardinal Principles for Making a Negro. For fear that our future generations may not understand the principles of breaking both horses and men, we lay down the art. For if we are to sustain our basic economy, we must break both of the beasts together, the nigger and the horse. We understand that short-range planning in economics results in periodic economic chaos, so that to avoid turmoil in the economy, it requires us to have breadth and depth in long-range comprehensive planning, articulating both skill and sharp perception. We lay down the following principles for long-range comprehensive economic planning. Number one, both horse and niggers are no good to the economy in the wild or natural state. Number two, both must be broken and tied together for orderly production. Number three, for orderly futures, special and particular attention must be paid to the female and the youngest offspring. Number four, both must be crossbred to produce a variety and division of labor. Number five, both must be taught to respond to a peculiar new language. Number six, psychological and physical instruction of containment must be created for both. We hold the above six cardinals as truths to be self-evident based upon the following discourse concerning the economics of breaking and tying the horse and nigger together, all inclusive of the six principles laid down above. Note, neither principles alone will suffice for good economics. All principles must be employed for the orderly good of the nation. Accordingly, both a wild horse and a wild, natural nigger is dangerous even if captured, for they will have the tendency to seek their customary freedom, and in doing so, might kill you in your sleep. You cannot rest. They sleep while you are awake, and awake while you are asleep. They are dangerous near the family house, and it requires too much labor to watch them away from the house. Above all, you cannot get them to work in this natural state. Hence, both the horse and the nigger must be broken. That is, break them from one form of mental life to another. The next topic, keep the body and take the mind. In other words, break the will to resist. Now the breaking process is the same for the horse and the nigger, only slightly varying in degrees. But as we said before, you must keep your eye focused on the female and the offspring of the horse and the nigger. A brief discourse in offspring development will shed light on the key to sound economic principles. Pay attention to the generation of original breaking, but concentrate on future generations. Therefore, if you break the female, she will break the offspring in the early years of development. And when the offspring is old enough to work, she will deliver it up to you. For her normal female protective tendencies will have been lost in the original breaking process. For example, take the case of the wild stud horse, a female horse and an already infant horse, and compare the breaking process with two captured nigger males in their natural state, a pregnant nigger woman with her infant offspring. Take the stud horse, break him for limited containment, completely break the female horse until she becomes very gentle, whereas you or anybody can ride her in comfort. Breed the mare and the stud until you have the desired offspring. Then you can turn the stud to freedom until you need him again. Train the female horse whereby she will eat out of your hand, and she will train the infant horse to eat out of your hand also. When it comes to breaking the uncivilized nigger, use the same process, but vary the degree and step up the pressure so as to do a complete reversal of the mind. Take the meanest and most restless nigger, strip him of his clothes in front of the remaining male niggers, the female and the nigger infant. Tar and feather him. Tie each leg to a different faced in opposite directions. Pull him apart in front of the remaining niggers. The next step is to take a bullwhip and beat the remaining nigger male to the point of death in front of the female and the infant. Don't kill him, but put the fear of God in him, for he can be useful for future breeding. So let's stop for a minute here, and let's go back to the first reading that I started with. And let's reflect a little bit and think about it. Now, we have the Willie Lynch person, whether fictitious or real, speaking about their economy. And this is really about the experience of our people, whether Willie Lynch existed back then as a person or whether the character is who they say he is. The experience is what I'm focused on, because the experience was real, and it's so real in today's society, as we all saw played out in the George Floyd killing or murder of him. It was played out, and it's been played out so many times. That's why I focus so much on stop the Black on Black crime. Why are we doing this to ourselves? This book explains a lot as to the why, the root cause, the experience. Because if you're tortured over this type of horrific atrocities, and you never, ever healed from it because of the Jim Crow era, the mass incarceration, it's been passed on generation after generation. Therefore, the divide of our people. So once we learn and we come to an awakening, a self-awakening, That's why we have to have the renewing of the Black mind, so that we as a collective unit can come together intellectually, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and economically, so that we can become whole as a people. It's the white supremacy, the white privilege, which is by design, that has kept this mentality ongoing. And I say that because we see it right here. We saw it on January 6th with the insurrection at the state capitol in Washington, D.C. If that had been Black people acting uncivilized, and they called us uncivilized, we came from melanated, brilliant people. And when you attempted to strip us of our natural state of loving one another, speaking our language, that's mental, physical torture. And when we saw January 6th happen, if that had been Black people doing that, acting uncivilized, it would have been a bloodbath. We would have been shot, maimed, killed, whatever it took. However, we have Congress now parading up and down as a showy display for the public, when really, I don't expect anything to be done. So let's really reflect on the why and the root cause. This is the root cause. It's the experience that we've had and we're still having. It has been traumatizing. The control, the free labor. And they're still getting free labor because of the mass incarceration of our people for some petty crimes that white people get a pass or just a slap on the hand sometimes, and nothing happens. And Black people are going to prison for years and years and years, and innocent at times, haven't even committed a crime. They just find a Black person and say, oh, that looks like that person, we better lock them up. This is why we have to examine the root cause and have a self-awakening and a renewing of our Black mind, so that we can come together as a people, an ethnic group. And this is why I was inspired to start this show. So does anyone want to unmute and elaborate on what we've discussed so far? If so, please do.
Yeah, I'll chime in a little bit. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you, William. I hear you.
Yes. To your point, everything you said is true. I think that a lot of the issues with the Black community is the same mindset. Basically, we think that, we go through these different things. We protest, smoke clear, it's back to business as usual. So, to me, if you continue the same mindset and looking for different results, you're not gonna never see those. I mean, I think it has to be, has to think about the way we go about trying to create this change. And I know it's a very slippery slope in this country for us as a people, but something has to change, because what's been going on for hundreds and hundreds of years has not created a change. Matter of fact, it's worse. I mean, we all seen Arbery on video get hunted down, shot like a dog. And, then it took several months for them to won't even recognize the atrocity that happened to that young man. And you hear about situations like this all over this country. So, but it's still, once again, once the smoke clears, it's back to business as usual. Even with the young lady that was in Ohio, I forgot her name. She's a young girl, 15, 16 years old. Police jumped out and just shot her. Didn't even think about it. It's a kid. Matter of fact, who had called them. And they did everything in their power to justify that. So I just think that the mindset is very important, but we do have to take strong stands and think about how we are going about trying to create a change, because what we have done has not worked.
Thank you, William, for that comment. And William is my husband, and we do discuss these things from time to time because we want to get ourselves together as a unit, loving ourselves, loving one another, sharing with one another. It's so vital what you said. So thank you for chiming in and sharing that, because it is important, because we know that unless we come together, we're going to be fighting for our freedom forever and ever and ever. And that's what has been happening. We're still fighting for our freedom. And that's so sad. So I'm going to continue to read and start on page 17, the breaking process of the African woman. Take the female and run a series of tests on her to see if she will submit to the desires willingly. Test her in every way, because she is the most important factor for good economics. If she shows any signs of resistance in submitting completely to your will, do not hesitate to use the bullwhip on her to extract that last bit of bitch out of her. Take care not to kill her, for in doing so, you spoil good economics. When in complete submission, she will train her offspring in the early years to submit to labor when they become of age. Understanding is the best thing. Therefore, we shall go deeper into this area of the subject matter concerning what we have produced here in this breaking of the female nigger. We have reversed the relationships. I'm going to read that one again. We have reversed the relationships. In her natural uncivilized state, she would have a strong dependency on the uncivilized nigger male, and she would have a limited protective dependency toward her independent male offspring, and would raise female offspring to be dependent like her. Nature had provided for this type of balance. We reversed nature by burning and pulling one civilized nigger apart and bullwhipping the other to the point of death, all in her presence. By her being left alone, unprotected, with the male image destroyed, the ordeal caused her to move from her psychological dependent state to a frozen independent state. In this frozen psychological state of independence, she will raise her male and female offspring in reversed rows. For fear of the young male's life, she will psychologically train him to be mentally weak and dependent, but physically strong. Because she has become psychologically independent, she will train her female offspring to be psychological independent as well. What have you got? You've got the nigger woman out front and the nigger man behind and scared. This is a perfect situation for sound sleep and economics. Before the breaking process, we had to be alert and on guard at all times. Now we can sleep soundly, for out of frozen fear, his woman stands guard for us. He cannot get past her early infant slave molding process. He's a good tool, now ready to be tied to the horse at a tender age. And here's a picture here depicting cotton picking back in the day. And I'll share a little story with you because I know about picking cotton. My mother grew up in the era. And as a little girl, I used to say, oh, my mother, can I, Madia, that's what we call my mother, Madia, can we go? Can I go? I was just a little girl and pick cotton with you, because this was how they made their livelihood. This was during the Jim Crow era. And I remember it in the 50s because I was born in 1951. And it brings back a reflection of how Black men and women were treated and still being treated. As I mentioned, it's going on right now in our present day. And this little white young overseer who was out here to make sure they continued to pick cotton, couldn't take a break, couldn't talk, he would call all of the Black women aunties. Auntie this, auntie that, auntie, auntie, auntie. I remember it as a kid. And a young white, could have been a boy, could have been a teenager, because they would put anybody over us, little children. So I remember he could have been mid to late teens, maybe early 20s, as I reflect back. And one day my mother got really tired of it. And I think I got a lot of the warrior for justice in me from my mom, because she spoke up and she told him, she said, let me tell you one thing. I am sick and tired of being called auntie. You calling all of us colored women auntie, because that's what they said back then. My mother passed away in 2015 at the age of 92, and she had seen a lot. And she had shared a lot of stories with us, and I had seen a lot. I saw the black and white fountains. Like I mentioned, my mother told us we're not drinking from that fountain that says colored and white. And she told this young white kid, I'm not your auntie. You call all of us colored women aunties, and I don't want to be called auntie. My name is Mary. He looked at my mother, like I said, I remember this as a little kid, as if it was yesterday. And he said, oh, okay. Okay, Mary, I won't call you auntie anymore. I won't call any of you auntie anymore. Something to that nature, he said. I'll call you Mary. And from that day forward, that young white kid called my mother Mary. But he had no respect for her or any of the Black women that were out there picking cotton. And it's just a sad case, because like I said, I have a lot of stories that I will be sharing that I can tell, but I just reflected on that one because of this picture of the cotton field and the atrocities that they still suffered in the 50s and 60s and on and on and on. We're talking 20th century right now, the century that I was born in. So let's read a little bit further. On page 20, by the time a nigger boy reaches the age of 16, he is soundly broken in and ready for a long life of sound and efficient work and the reproduction of a unit of good labor force. Continually through the breaking of the uncivilized savage niggers, by throwing the nigger female savage into a frozen psychological state of independency, by killing the protective male image, and by creating a submissive, dependent mind of the nigger male slave. We have created an orbiting cycle that turns on its own axis forever, unless a phenomenon occurs and reshift the positions of the male and female savages. We show that we mean, by example, take the case of two economic slave units and examine them closely. So I'm going to stop here and let's elaborate a little bit because I think we'll get through this book today. Now, as you can see here, what I read from that page, the breaking process of the African woman. And we see that today, how the Black female is still being used because we know that they broke up the Black family, the Black family structure. We had a strong Black family structure. And it was broken when we were brought here, as you can see. So whether Willie Lynch was real or not, the experience was real. I've seen a lot of it. The Black family structure was broken. They ran the Black male, the husband, away and weakened him. So they thought. However, we still have a lot of strong Black men. And then they infiltrated our communities with drugs. And with that, that helped to further destroy the Black family and the Black unit. The infiltration of drugs within our communities that we didn't bring in to the country. We don't have that type of economic power to bring these drugs into the country and then throw them in our neighborhood. And we know that to be a fact. I can't recall the name of a journalist that wrote about it, but I will elaborate on that at another time. So this is still by design, it's going on. So we have to have a renewing of our Black mind, a self-awakening to come together in unity. And as I stated, we have some strong Black men still that they're doing everything they can to bring the family structure back so that we can build Black communities to be the people that God envisioned us to be and that we were born to be. We were not born to be enslaved. That was not God's purpose. We're human beings, even though the Constitution defined us as 3/5 of a person, but yet it contradicts itself about equal rights. And if that wasn't a fact, why are we still out here fighting for our freedom to have the pursuit of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for us as a Black community? So when I read this, it just makes me reflect on so much. And I'll be sharing a lot of these stories with you. So would you guys like to say anything? Do you have any comments about what we've read?
Louise?
Yes.
Yes. I did read the Willie Lynch story, as you know.
Right.
And I think the way that Black men were treated to not only instill fear in them, but in the offsprings and everybody else that was watching, because they used to have groups, you know, like, well, from what I'm told and read, they would have like campfires or whatever. And not only do that to Black men, but to Black pregnant women as well, because they felt if they beat the Black pregnant woman, it would not only instill fear in her, but also the infant as well. But my thing is, we all know the problems and what happened back in the day and still today in a more sophisticated way. But what is the solution? What do we do? How do we change the mindset of our people to move forward? I mean, there's a combination of a lot of things that we can do or should be done, but how do you go about doing that? That's my thing, you know, because it's all about economics. It's all about, like you said, not allowing people to treat you ways that we are being treated. The police force, just the criminal justice system is it's just a lot of entities that are keeping Black people thinking the way they think and feeling the way they feel. That Black movement that was out and nobody's doing anything with it or about it is being run by white people. You know, I mean, what's up? I mean, how do we need to come with a solution, some kind of solution that could perhaps change the mindset. especially economically, because we have so much money that's being generated in the Black community, but we still spend it in Asian places on hair and nails, and we can't even find a decent supermarket to buy fresh food that will not only keep your mind healthy, your body healthy, your everything. I mean, it's just like, it's a lot going on. It's a combination of a lot of things that's going on. And it's very frustrating because it's like, what do you do? How do you, get to, to the solution of this? You know what I mean? I don't know. What are you thinking in that aspect?
I was going to chime in.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I just think right now, just to elaborate on what Lena was saying, I think some of the things, not all the things, but I think not trying to be isolated in any way, but you have people adding to the problem, Black people.
Absolutely.
And these people should be held accountable. I mean, in some way, you have Black businesses taking advantage of Black consumers that seek them out because they want to be supportive, and these Black businesses take advantage. You also have Black people that think it's fashionable to red out and go against Black people. And I'm not saying we should be isolated in a bubble. We're all in this world, but you have to take care of yourself first. You have to look out for your interests first, because no one else is, including Black people. And just basically, we have to hold people accountable. We have to take back our communities. Like you said, you have drugs going into the Black community. You got people slinging them drugs left and right, not caring that they're destroying generations of young Black people lives in the process. They just trying to get money, trying to get paid. And Black people have to stand up and hold these type of people accountable. Otherwise, we can't go further. And also, when you have certain people that's in key positions trying to push the Black agenda, they have to have a certain amount of security, because we all know what has happened in the past when there was no security. So, those are some of the things that we can think about as Black people that's trying to make lives better for Black people in this country.
Absolutely. You really made a very sound assessment, William and Lena, and thank you for those comments. And as you said, we have to take responsibility and accountability and come together as a unit and put that trust in it, because what you said, William, has a lot to do with trust. We have to create a trusting environment. And we have to hold our politicians accountable. As I mentioned, we go out and we vote. I mentioned that in one of my live chats. We vote Democratic. Most Black people, once these Democrats get in office, what do? Nothing. Business as usual until the next election. We have to hold our religious leaders accountable. A lot of money goes into the churches. So what are they doing? How are they coming together? The ministers, are they coming together in a unified front to help the community to bridge that cultural gap? We have to have everybody being held accountable and responsible. You have to take responsibility. And we need shows like this to discuss these things, talk about it. We have to talk about it. Because if we aren't talking about it, how are we going to be about it? And if we're captured into an enslaved mindset by the drugs, the alcohol, And I just did an analogy, and I'll speak on that briefly, of liquor stores in South LA, used to be called South Central LA, now South LA. There were 158 liquor stores. And Lena touched on this about healthy food. There were 57 grocery stores. And when it said grocery stores, I don't know how those grocery stores, the 57, were broken down, whether they were healthy grocery stores, as you will see if you go into a white neighborhood. You're not going to see this type of environment. You're not going to see these torn up roads. We have to take responsibility and start holding everybody accountable that has any authority. And we're not doing that. We elect these politicians and we don't hold any of them accountable to any agenda. And we do have an agenda. I know Dr. Claude Anderson submitted an agenda to President Barack Obama when he was in office. And from what I understand, he didn't even get a response. But President Obama did do some things, but specifically for us as Black people, what did he do? I don't recall anything that he did specifically for us as Black people, but he did things specifically for other ethnicities. And the Biden administration, what are they doing? Biden-Harris, with all the atrocities going on. Reparations have been given to others. Our forefathers worked for free, built this country. Where are the reparations for Black people? Nobody, they don't even want to discuss it. We have a Black caucus. Where are they in addressing all of these issues over the years? And we keep voting some of them in over and over and over and over and over with no changes in our Black community. Mental health is a serious issue in our Black community. I know firsthand because I had to deal with the mental health system because of my son, David, who had cancer at the age of 14. So I'm not speaking on something that just happened for over 400 years ago. I'm speaking on things that just happened recently in the 21st century. And I have lots of stories I can tell you about employment discrimination, housing discrimination, educational discrimination. And the list can go on and on and on and on and on. Religious discrimination. Yet we're supposed to be a Christian nation. Where do you see the most segregation in this country? Is on Sundays, in the churches. So much segregation. And I went to a segregated school, an all Black school, and I must say, I'm glad I did. And then I moved to California and went to an integrated, predominantly white school in college, went to high school and finished in Louisiana, Shreveport, where I was born. So I can speak from both experiences, and life has a lot to do with your experience and your teaching in the home. And that's where a lot of this has been lost, in the home, because there are a lot of, as Lena mentioned, a lot of females, particularly, and I know some of them, Black females, they're out here buying all this hair, Louis Vuitton, and you're on Section 8. That money could be put in an investment, the stock market, something to yield for your children, to yield a return on your investment. How are you going to get a return on some hair that you put on your head that you can't even afford, because many times you're on Section 8 or you're on welfare and you're not doing anything to improve your circumstance? That's up to you. You control your own destiny, because the government is going to throw you some crumbs to keep you in the situation you're in when you don't have to be there. Use the money you have.
And Louise, can I interject here?
Sure.
I'm not blaming those people. I said that, but I'm not blaming them because I just don't think they know any better, to be honest with you. I think most people, when you know better, you do better. And I think the situation that you have been describing the past two Zooms is so true. And what William said was so true. But I don't think really people realize that you have to help yourself first and then reach out to help others. And I don't think they even we talked about the school system. I think in a lot of communities, impoverished communities, or the euphemisms of these cities, that parents are sending their kids to school to let the school teacher raise them. They don't even come to school to see what the kids are doing in school, what their kids do, or how they're being treated, or check their papers to see if they're being marked correctly, or just whatever. I just don't think people, for the most part, just don't know better, so they don't do better. And that's really sad. And I'm thinking, these problems exist that you're talking about, but how do we resolve them? What's the solution? How do we get to people so they could start spending their money wisely, investing in their children economically, that generational wealth, to keep them, teach them about whatever they're doing, taking them to work with them, or sitting down talking to them. And I know you do it, and I know William does it as well. Educate your kids on how to do better, to be better, economically and otherwise. And I just don't think a lot of our people do that, unfortunately. And I can't speak for everybody. I'm just saying, I just think that's part of the issue, part of the problem. I just don't think people know better, so they don't do better, because they just trying to get ahead themselves in every way they can. Even the reality shows that are on there, that are on TV, I just think to me, the image they're projecting is not a positive one. And I just think that they dangle money in front of them. It's a combination of a lot of things, I think, that has to go on in order to make things better. And it's a lot of these Black shows that comes on about slavery and movies, and we're still talking about it until today. But what is really being done about it? To up yourself or your family. And I just think that's,
Now I was going to chime in. I was going to say absolutely.
Yes.
And I think one of the ingredients in this is basically we have to reevaluate what is so-called success. And I kind of touched on it last time. We have been told what success is. We have preachers that preaches, that you have to have this and that to be successful. We have this society say that you have to have, all these material things for you to be successful. But what is the real definition of success? And that's what I think we're losing a lot of young folks at. They going, especially, girls, young ladies want to buy all these products and things because this is what they've been drummed, and they thinking that being successful looks like. And the same with guys, we go out as youngsters, and if we can't get it one way, we're going to try to get another way. A lot of the times that way could be wrong, against the law, and we end up doing more damage than good to ourselves and to our lives and to our loved ones. So we have to reevaluate what is truly success. And it's not always material things. It might be a part of it, but it's a lot broader than that. I just think we have to change the way this mindset, it all goes back to our mindset, our thinking. That has to be changed. We start changing that, we'll start changing our direction.
So true.
I agree.
So true. That's what it's all about. And that's why we do have some shows out here that are doing that. I can state one I can bring to mind. Dr. Claude Anderson has written books to help us to understand the why. In his book, Black Labor, White Wealth, Powernomics, he's given some solutions. Like I said, he even wrote President Barack Obama. And if you notice, some of the Black leaders who really have an agenda and some solutions on how to bring us together, you don't see them on mainstream media. You're not going to, because they want to keep us ignorant. This is how we come out of it. We have to stop perishing for a lack of knowledge. And reading really does open the mind to new opportunities. And if we start reading, we start listening, we start loving one another, love yourself first, loving one another, sharpening each other's tools, that's how we come out of it. Listening to a lot of this music that we listen to by design, because these white musical entertainment industries will sign on a Black musician, or one of these rappers and so forth, that's infiltrating the young minds, and parents are allowing it, a lot of them, because they don't have time for their children. They don't have time to discipline their children. And it has taken away so much from us. And until we get back to loving ourselves, disciplining our children, as you guys have mentioned, and no, it's not the blame if you don't know any better. And I'm not saying that, because if you know better, as Maya Angelou said, you should do better. But a lot of us don't know any better.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I just don't think they know better. And I'm not,
Right.
Trying to, knock anybody or put anybody down. But I think that's part of the problem in a lot of areas, is that they don't know the right thing to do. And I think, like you were saying, just touching up on the books and reading, maybe if it was, and I'm not sure if that would be a solution as well, but maybe if these books were sensationalized, like all these other things, like the rappers and the money they make and all these shows that they're doing, maybe if it was maybe look like the next best thing to do. Maybe we can get young people to start reading this and learn about what to do and how to do it, and maybe even educate their parents, because it's just a lot that needs to be done. And I just don't know, what the solution is going to be, overall. Something needs to happen for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are solutions. The solution starts, as scripture says, like I said, they use the Bible to enslave us. Let's use it to renew our minds, because charity starts at home. And if you're teaching your children from infancy on our history and the why, like we're going through the why, how in slavery they used the Black woman. And it's still going on now with many Black women who are raising their children, particularly males, raising them and not without a male figure, or a positive male figure, I should say, that can empower them and enhance their knowledge to have an understanding of what we have to do to come together. That's what it's going to take. And it's happening, I must say, it is happening. And we don't know how long it's going to take, but you have to start from somewhere once you know the root cause of why you're in this situation. And it's all about the experiences that stem from slavery, using the Black woman, weakening the Black man, and so that she could raise weakened children. And now we are coming to an awakening.
It is happening now. If you look at the school system, the college system, the percentage of Black women graduating and going away with careers, the percentage is far greater than the Black man. So what's happening there? How, you know what I mean? So it's still happening, like you said. It's happening in subliminal type ways. You know what I mean? It's there. So
yeah, it's there.
Yeah.
And we have to get more people to start paying attention to what some of us are doing and saying, because we know we've had these so-called leaders out here for years and years and years, the Jesse Jackson, the Al Sharptons. We've had these type of leaders out here for years and years and years. And have you seen any changes based on what they have done? So we need to start in the home, teaching our children our history, letting them understand what it is to be intelligent, what it is to be emotionally, mentally sound, intellectually sound. That's important. Then you can get to that economically sound, spiritually sound. That's what we got to do. We got to start disciplining our children and watching how we are parenting, because so many of us aren't parenting. Like you mentioned, going to the schools. A lot of parents don't even know what's going on with their children in the school. The children are just going doing whatever they want to do. And a lot of parents are doing things with their children that they shouldn't be doing. So it's just so much that we have to do as adults and parents. And the only way we're going to do it, we have to start sharpening each other's tools so that we can have that mindset to understand. And a lot of people don't care as long as they're getting that almighty dollar. And you notice a lot of these singers, rappers, a lot of them are dying at early ages. And a lot of it has to do with drugs. That's one of the ways that they have used our minds, drugs and alcohol. As I mentioned, you got 158 liquor stores in South Los Angeles, and you got 57 grocery stores. And who's to say what type of grocery stores they are? I guarantee you they're not all wholesome grocery stores, but I guarantee you those liquor stores are stocked so they can keep you coming back, getting drunk, spending up your money the wrong way. It's how we have lots of money coming through our hands, is how we're spending it. We got to start spending our money wisely. And that's the only way you're going to learn, that you got to be taught. And it's not happening in the home. So with that said, we're going to have to continue this discussion next week and finish this book up as to the why and the root cause. Because once you get to the root cause of any situation, the why, that's when you can start setting up solutions on how to elevate yourself to a higher level, which is what this society does not want us to do, because we are a brilliant melanated people.
Can I say something?
Sure.
I was gonna say that.
Hi, Crystal. Thanks for chiming in.
Hi, hello everyone. Good afternoon. I was gonna say that I was just having a conversation with my friend about this the other day, like about how times have changed as far as like how you said, like the kids and just younger people nowadays. Even, I mean, people younger than me. I'm 32, but I'm talking about people that are like, you know, have children, or have people that are people now that are like in their early 20s.
Mhm.
And we were talking, and I was telling my friend, I was like, man, I remember those times where, like, for us when we were young, like we would go outside, we would play, we would, you know, we would finger paint, like we would do certain activities as younger kids. I mean, yeah, we played the game and watched TV and stuff like that, but I remember being younger and us like actually being like going outside, you know, versus like kids now or younger people now, like, you know, we're in a social media era. So, you know, nowadays, like kids don't want to go outside. They don't want to go play. Like they want to be on the phone or be on YouTube or be on, you know what I mean? Like that's like the thing now. So it kind of ties into just like, I guess, kind of like society and how things are right now. I just think we're just in a different time, and like we need like things like this platform that you've created where we're educating people and we're talking to people. And, you know, one of my other friends, like, he does like little, what do you call those, little lives where he talks about certain things, like topics like this. And I noticed certain people that are doing things like this to try to educate and bring certain awareness to certain things that are going on. But I can also say that I feel like a lot of people that they're not listening, they're not taking it serious, because we're just in just a different time. And so I think maybe finding ways to get back to those old days where we do go outside, we do have these conversations, we do talk, we do, you know, maybe try to find a way to maybe, I don't know, integrate social media where you get people interested, because we've gotten so far away from how it used to be when I feel like when I was younger, you know, like it's just different how people spend their time now, or how kids or how young people, you know, they just want to be on social media. That's the thing now. So, you know, I think that's just it, finding new ways to bring awareness or educate, or get people involved. And one of my friends did this thing a couple of weeks back. I didn't get a chance to make it, but it was a vision board party, and it was Sunday brunch, and they had mimosas and drinks and stuff, and she said bring newspapers, and it was a whole just Sunday fun day brunch where she encouraged people to make vision boards. And we laughed, you laugh, you joke, you play music, you have a good time. But in that midst of that, we're preparing career goals, and we're getting our visions out, and we're doing things. So I'm saying things like that, you know what I mean, that they're fun. You kind of hang out and have fun with your friends, but it also gets you thinking and gets you talking about making certain moves. So I think things like that maybe can attract younger people, where it's kind of fun, but it also brings awareness.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Crystal, because that's so true. And
yeah, I totally agree with her. That's what I was saying. Maybe if you can sensationalize these great books to read, where it makes it like, oh, I got to get that book, because we are in a different time. We are in a very technological time now, and it's just the way it is. It's a different way you get to approach now. Totally. And I like that
that's
idea
exactly
of
what I
doing
was
a vision
saying.
board.
Yeah, different
The
approach.
vision board with the friends and things like that. I think that's great, because you might laugh about it while you're doing it, but then when you get home, you start thinking about it, or on the way home, you start thinking, well, what is my vision? You start thinking about those things. And it's just a different way you have to approach these days, because I think it's going to be our younger people that's going to make the difference. I really do.
I agree. I agree with that. And
finding new ways. That's it. That's what I was saying. Just finding new ways to bring people in because of the time now.
Exactly.
Oh
Exactly.
yeah. We're in a different time now. And however, this time has created more deaths among young people. Suicide is very high among young people, and that's unfortunate. And social media has been good and it has been bad, because if you're spending all your time on social media with nonsense and you don't have any balance in your life, you're ruining your life. And like you said, Crystal, the vision board is a good thing, not just for young people, but for anybody, because I've done many vision boards, and I had a vision board party here at my house a few years ago, as Chastity, who was on here a couple of weeks ago, and she talked about it. And I'm going to have some more vision boards, but with the way the pandemic is now, we're going to have to do them virtual. And you can do so many things virtual now. And to get people engaged, we need to get our Black people engaged in things of substance, because so many of us are engaged in things that yield us no return at all on the investment of your time. No returns, because you spend too much of your time wasted. And I'm going to have some guests on here that's going to be talking about some of the things, like I said, that we're discussing, because we are getting to the root cause and the why. And then we're going to start bringing guests on that have businesses, a lawyer, and other people on that can give us legal advice, because too many of our people are being locked up because their mind needs to be renewed, a self-awakening. And we have too much of that going on. So we got to find solutions to bring us together as a people. That's one of our major situations, is this divide among us, which has been by design and created back from slavery and still going on, because so many of us are still enslaved in the mind. So we can bring it together, and we are bringing it together. And that's a good thing, Crystal, that vision board, because I had one, and I had people of all ages at my vision board, because you're never too old to do something constructive and something positive, and to teach like that. Each one teach one. You're never too old. Here I am, I'm doing something to help our people to bridge the gap. I'm still alive. I'm almost 71, but I'm not dead. Some of us at my age act like we've died already. We're not doing anything to contribute to a lot of the challenges that we are facing as Black people in our Black community. And we are allowing it to happen. And the only way we're going to stop it, we have to find solutions. We have to have an agenda. And like I said, there are people out here with agendas. However, you have politicians, you have religious leaders, and many of them are focused on not on us, apparently, over 400 years, and we're still out here fighting for our freedom. So what does that tell you? And again, I say charity starts at home. We got to start teaching our children. A lot of us let our kids follow all these rappers calling us bitches and hoes and all that. I don't appreciate that, because you can contribute something positive to the community, the Black community, without calling Black women bitches and hoes.
No, I agree with you on that, Mom. But I think nowadays we're for younger people, and I'm just speaking because I can understand, like, younger people don't take that stuff for like us. That's just entertainment. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, okay, it's all fun and games. We're listening to music. We're enjoying it. Now, I get what you're saying. Is it right? No, but that's how young people look at that stuff now. Like, they look at it like entertainment. And that's why I say it's one of those things now where we have to find ways to kind of like, with younger people, give them a little bit of what they need to get them there, and then mingle it in with the positive. You know, like I said, that vision board party, oh, it was drinks and music. So that's always going to bring younger people. When there's drinks and music involved, oh, we're going to show up. You know what I'm saying? I get mimosas for 2 hours for free. Okay, I'm going to show up. And there's food, there's wings, there's pizza, stuff like that. So it's like, and they're playing hip hop music. So it's kind of like, you kind of have to find a way to kind of like a little of that extra stuff, and then tie it in with something. Like, one of my friends wants to do like an all girls sleepover, and she wants to specifically for girls that have that are doing Black business, or that, well, of course, Black owned businesses, but young entrepreneurs that have Black owned businesses. She wants to do like a sleepover so we can, you know, all talk about our businesses and things like that. But along with that, she's bringing the fun, you know? So it's just that balance now, if you understand. You got to kind of give a little.
I said balance. I've always spoken of balance. I was raised that way. However, what I'm saying, a lot of young people don't have that discernment or wisdom that you have, Crystal, because I raised you differently. I raised you, remember. A lot of kids don't have that discernment and that discipline that you have. So you know better. You can hear this stuff, and I don't advocate it. I'm not advocating it, believe me, because it has taken too many of our young Black people to prison and dead, because they don't have the discernment and the wisdom to see what you're saying, because they weren't raised like you. Many of their parents are in prison themselves, and many of their parents out here strung out on drugs. I knew people that were strung. I worked with some that got fired in the county of LA because they were strung out on drugs and alcohol. So a lot of kids don't have that discernment and that wisdom. And that's why I have this platform and started it, because they are looking at it as just entertainment. But where is it getting them? Because they don't have the discernment and the understanding that this entertainment is ruining your life. Because
I get that, Mom. You're right.
In prison or in jail because you're following and listening to this music, entertainment that you're calling entertainment, and it's destroying your mind because you're not getting it from the home.
That's true. But but the difference is too.
But you have a point.
This has been, but it's the differences too. I always have to tell myself too, because I see it sometimes where I'm just like, well, where are they home training? But I have to understand too, a lot of people my age, they have younger parents. You and my dad are older. You know what I'm saying? So I had a whole different upbringing. Not only are you guys not from California? So I've noticed that's a different, that both of you and my dad are both from the South, and you guys are older. And a lot of people my age, their parents are barely in their 50s.
I know, you're
maybe
right.
60.
You're
So
right.
it's a difference, you
You're
know?
right, because a lot of your friends, remember, you would talk to them about the things I would talk to you about, and they would say, oh, I wish my mom would talk to me. You would tell me, I wish my mom would talk to me like that. And your friends would come to me.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's not that they don't want it, because if they didn't want it, why would they come to me after you're talking to them from peer to peer? So they do want it. It's just that they need structure in their home environment, and they need parents to start explaining to them what it is to be success. And William talked about that, because success is not all about money. You need money, of course, but if success is not it does not just entail money. You have to have the intellect. You need the spiritual growth. You need the emotional growth. You need the mental growth to gain that economic empowerment. And then once you gain it, if you have the other attributes, you can invest in a wholesome life and have generational wealth to pass on to your children. That's what I'm attempting to get across. And I know we're going to close the show for today. The next show, we're going to finish up this book, The Willie Lynch Letter and the Making of a Slave. And thank you so much for chiming in, Crystal, sharing that information, because we want to hear from young people and get your ideas, get your thoughts, because that's how we come together with some solutions.
And that's what I was saying. If you know better, you do better. And I just think that's part of the problem.
Absolutely.
You
They don't know any better.
You don't know any better. So that's why you do the same things and expecting different results or wanting different results. It's just not going to happen. You got to know better. So, but good talk, Louise. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And nice to meet you, Crystal.
Yes, nice to meet you too. Yes,
this is Lena. This is Lena, Crystal, William's sister, my sister-in-law, and William is on. Yeah.
Yes, nice to meet you, Lena. Nice chatting with you
as well. We'll get the chance to hang out one of these days soon.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And before we go, real quickly.
And wait a minute. And William, good talk.
Yes.
Well, we need these kind of conversations.
Yeah.
We need this. Families need to do this. And today it has been all family on. I've had friends on in the past, and some of them, they'll come back because people have things to do, and I understand. That's why I said this will be uploaded on my YouTube channel, Aim to Purpose Radio. Please go and subscribe, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to my channel, because that way, if you miss coming in to the live show, you can always go and catch it on my my YouTube channel, Aim to Purpose Radio. But before I go, I want to share this book with you. This is a book, because I love sharing books for you guys to read. It's by Napoleon Hill. It's called Outwitting the Devil. Very excellent read. Napoleon Hill wrote this book years and years ago. However, it was not published until much later. I believe he had passed away when this book was published, because it was so powerful and so empowering that his family did not want him to publish it for fear of his life. So it's entitled Outwitting the Devil, and it's an excellent read by Napoleon Hill. So if you can, get this book and read it. Excellent book, written in, I can't remember the year it was written, but it wasn't published until much, much, much later. So you can check out Napoleon Hill on the internet and read about who Napoleon Hill is, read about the book before you publish if you so desire. And by all means, get Dr. Claude Anderson book. I always talk about this because this is a powerful book, Black Labor, White Wealth. So reading really does open up the mind to many, many opportunities and discussions like this. So thank you all, Lena, Crystal, William, for chiming in today. I will be signing off until next week. And as I always leave the show with, your power lies within you. Let it loose. Until next Sunday. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a good afternoon.
Have a
Everyone
good
enjoyed their Super Bowl.
Thank you.